On this episode of China Uncensored, China's master plan to rule the world's financial system. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. If you've been watching this show for a while, you know that China has plans for world domination. What's that, Shelley? Okay, so more accurately, Chinese leaders are trying to give China more global influence, be it with money, politics, or Confucius, to counterbalance what it calls Western hegemony. China's view is that the 21st century should belong to China. But according to my favorite Chinese state-run media, we in the West are just too arrogant to see it. There are some problems with this plan, though, and one of them is that the rest of the world doesn't really want to trade in China's currency, which is called the yuan or the renminbi. And you need a dominant currency to be a global hegemon. Gotta rule them all! So whose currency dominates? Well, here's one indication. Every 5 years, the International Monetary Fund determines what's awkwardly called the Special Drawing Rights, or SDR. Think of the SDR like a basket that contains a few different countries' currencies. It's made up of specific amounts of US dollars, euros, British pounds, and Japanese yen. And then the basket itself acts like a currency that countries can trade. The IMF picked these four currencies for the SDR because of their stability, as well as the fact that a lot of countries actually hold them as part of their foreign exchange reserves. But now, there's a new kid in town, the Chinese yuan. On November 30th, the IMF announced that the new SDR basket is going to have some Chinese currency in it too.
The IMF's executive board decided that the renminbi qualified for the SDR basket under existing criteria.
So what's going to happen when this takes effect next October? Well, there's only so much room in the basket, so now something's got to make way for Mao. In the new SDR, the yuan will take up an even higher portion than the pound or yen. Some media are saying that the yuan could eventually rival the US dollar. This is a huge move by the IMF, partly because China is the only non-democracy to be included in the SDR. And that's a big concern for some people, because of the heavy-handed approach China takes sometimes.
Just the difficulty, I think, is that maybe in the light of some of the extreme policies that the government have been implementing with regards to financial markets recently in China, such as devaluing the yuan, such as making institutions not be able to sell their shares for a certain number of months, quite extreme policies that are taking place, maybe suggesting China's not quite ready for this.
See, China isn't ready for this. This is going to completely destroy... Wait, what's that, Shelley? Roll the rest of the clip.
You know, if the IMF can bring China in and consult with them on the kind of policies that are being used in more developed countries, you know, China can be brought on board and been shown the benefits of doing so. I think it's only got to be a positive in terms of Chinese reforms.
Wait, so it's a good thing? Shelley, I'm getting mixed messages. Can you just come over here and help sort this out?
Sure, Chris.
So China's inclusion in the SDR, danger to America or extreme danger to America?
Actually, neither. This could be a good thing. The US government has been frustrated for a long time with the way the Chinese government manipulates its currency, and now getting into the SDR has forced China to clean up its act. Somewhat. And if Chinese leaders want to continue to make the yuan more influential, they will have to make more reforms that will eventually allow the yuan to be traded at a fair price determined by the international market.
Ah, so China thinks it's getting more power, but it's a trap, like what happened to Jafar.
You wanted to be a genie? You got it! And everything that goes with it! No!
Well, sort of. It's true that there are a lot of constraints that come with being a global reserve currency. For example, now China's supposed to be more transparent and enforce regulations, but they weren't tricked into it like Jafar was. I think Chinese leaders were just ready to make the sacrifices.
So what benefits does China actually get from the yuan being in the SDR?
Well, it'll probably encourage more countries to use yuan in their foreign transactions. It will also make it easier for China to borrow money. But the biggest effect is symbolic. It raises China's prestige. It is a double-edged sword, though, because this will probably push up the value of the yuan. And that will make it harder for China to sell its exports. That's not good news in the short term, because China is an export-driven economy that's already in a slowdown. But in the long term, it's healthier for the Chinese economy if there's less artificial control over the currency. So this could be a good thing.
So what does this mean for the US dollar?
It doesn't really affect the dollar at all. What really makes a currency powerful is whether people actually want to use it in business transactions. The vast majority of global payments are still made in dollars or euros. This year, only 2.8% of global payments were in yuan. So again, it's mainly symbolic. For the American economy overall, it's better if the yuan goes up in value. So again, this could be a good thing.
So China's currency isn't the greatest threat America's ever faced?
Honestly, shark attacks are a greater threat.
Shark attacks are as big a threat as China? All right, everyone out of the water. Thanks, Shelley. Meet me later today at the beach. Bring your harpoon. So what do you think? Leave your comments below and subscribe for more episodes of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time. Star Wars The Force Awakens comes out later this month, and it got me thinking. There are actually a lot of similarities between the empire that rules the galaxy and the Communist Party that rules China. Earlier in the year, China sold an unknown number of combat drones to the Iraqi military.